What's up, everyone? This is the Next Tape Podcast, episode 39 with Mikel and
Tanyka.
where we have conversations on different topics. So today is Canada Day. Woo! How old is Canada, Tanyka?
Oh, geez.
100, 140, 100
You want me to do that math?
Let's see. Let's do the math. 1868.
So 157 years old.
Okay. Interesting. Huh. So it's beyond older than us, basically.
I would hope so.
Yeah. 157 years old. Wow.
Yep.
Interesting.
We're
So
much younger than America.
Oh, interesting. How old's America?
Well, America, we're going to be talking about that in another episode real soon.
Mm-hmm.
But America became America in the late 1700s.
Wow, so we were the first country.
I don't know if they were in the first country, but they were before us.
Okay. Okay, so what are we going to learn today on today's episode?
We're going to kind of just talk about Canada. What makes Canada Canada.
Okay.
We're going to have some fun with it.
Right.
As well. Doing like a little bit of a trivia thing.
Nice.
And an article that just came across my face today as we're recording this, which we're actually recording this in May. We're going to talk about a little bit about the reopening of John A. Macdonald's home for the public's consumption very quickly.
Okay.
Thought it fitting since we're talking about Canada.
Right. Okay.
All right.
Let's get to it.
So, Canada, which is actually the second largest country in the world in terms of area, which I did not know this. This was news to me. Russia being the first on that list, occupying roughly the northern 2/5 of the continent of North America, which is understandable. Despite Canada's great size, it is one of the world's most sparsely populated countries. This fact, coupled with the grandeur of the landscape, has been central to the sense of Canadian national identity, and this was expressed by the Dublin-born writer Anna Brownell Jameson, who explored central Ontario in 1837, so Canada was Canada. So we'll put that out there. And remarked on the seemingly interminable line of trees before you, the boundless wilderness around you, the mysterious depths amid the multi-tenderous foliage, whatever, where foot of man hath never penetrated. That's an interesting word to use, but this was in 1837, so bear with me. The solitude in which we proceeded mile after mile, no human being, no human dwelling within sight. This was what was said about Canada back in roughly 1837. And, I mean, I guess there's maybe still some places like that. I don't see that where I live. I feel like they're always building something new, but it's, it's pretty interesting. So although Canadians are comparatively few in number, which I think that's not surprising, they have crafted what many observers consider to be a model multicultural society, welcoming immigrant populations from every other continent. In addition, Canada harbors and exports a wealth of natural resources and intellectual capital equaled by few other countries. So we're doing good in that sense. Canada is officially bilingual, so English and French.
Yes.
Reflecting the country's history as ground once contested by two of Europe's great powers. The word Canada is derived from the Huron Equus, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, guys, Kanata, so Kanata, that's the word, meaning a village or settlement. In the 16th century, so many, many years ago, the French explorer Jacques Cartier used the name Canada to refer to the area around the settlement that is now Quebec City. Later, Canada was used as a synonym for New France, which from 1534 to 1763 included all of the French possessions along the St. Lawrence River and the Great Lakes. So, sorry, lost my thought here. Okay, after the British conquest of New France, the name Quebec was sometimes used instead of Canada. So if you remember, we always had I think upper and lower, and Quebec was kind of the name that was really used a lot before Canada really became Canada. That's the minimal knowledge I remember from Canadian history. It's a long time ago. Bear with me.
Yeah.
The name Canada was fully restored after 1791 when Britain divided Old Quebec into the provinces of Upper and Lower Canada, renamed in 1841 as Canada West and Canada East, respectively, and collectively called Canada. In 1867, the British North America Act created a confederation from 3 colonies, which that included Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Canada. And this was called the Dominion of Canada. Interesting. We have an insurance company called that. Well, what do you mean?
Insurance and a pizza.
Huh?
What it's called. We have a Dominion Pizza. If that's
I'm not, no.
Off topic, but yeah.
I just mean literally there's an insurance company called Dominion of...
I never heard of that insurance company.
Well, because now Dominion of Canada was actually taken over by an American insurance company called Travelers.
I heard that company. Okay, yeah.
Right.
Interesting. Okay.
Kind of what all insurance companies are doing these days. Yeah, so the Act also divided the old colony of Canada into the separate provinces of Ontario and Quebec. Dominion status allowed Canada a large measure of self-rule, but matters pertaining to international diplomacy and military alliances were reserved to the British Crown. Canada became entirely self-governing within the British Empire in 1931. So really and truly, if you think about it, not that long ago. It's just recently. Though full legislative independence was not achieved until 1982. And that is probably around the time that the Charter of Rights and Freedoms was actually signed by not only Pierre Trudeau, but also Queen Elizabeth. So that was probably around that time. So this was in 1982 when Canada obtained the right to amend its own constitution. That's when that happened. So Canadians live in a society that in most legal and official matters resembles Britain, which is very true, at least in the English-speaking portion of the country. Quebec, in particular, exhibits French adaptations. More than 3/4 of its population speak French as their primary language. So, again, as people who live in this country, you know that, like, it was... I mean, I never went to Quebec. Yeah. I never went to Quebec, but my mom did during the graduation trips that they don't really do anymore, at least in my school. Or what was my school? You actually had to learn French, and you learned it from a young age. You learned it from 6, not 9 anymore, like we do now. But you actually have to speak French to the people in Quebec. They went to, I think, Quebec City, and you actually had to speak French to them. So you better know your French to some extent that you can actually converse with somebody. But
Oh,
um,
nowadays people, not a lot of people are speaking French.
well, I
And
don't.
compared to like back in the day, there were like more people who speak French and
I don't know if you could say necessarily people spoke
mhm,
more French then versus now. I think
mhm,
it's just a matter of you being fluent in it. And that takes a
right.
lot of work as someone who doesn't
Yes.
speak the language. That goes
Yeah.
both ways. And you need to be fluent in that. And in order to
Mhm.
become fluent in it, it's something you have to continue with throughout
Yeah.
your schooling into
Yeah.
college or university. Nine times out of
100%.
10, most people don't do that. My
Uh,
mom didn't do that.
mhm,
I didn't do that.
mhm,
So actually grade nine. You don't have to do French again past
right.
grade nine. I stopped French in grade nine, and I did
Mhm.
Spanish in grade 10, and that was kind of it for me in terms of another language. So
I
you
know
have
my
you have to want to continue on with that.
I
Um,
know I know my brother studied French.
but see
Mhm.
that is probably also beneficial to him
Yeah.
too because he lives
Yeah.
in Ottawa, where
Yeah.
there is actually more probably I think probably besides Quebec, it's probably
Hmm.
one of the most high populated people who speak not
Yes.
just English but also French because they are so close to Quebec. You 2 minutes from the capital and you're in Quebec.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that too.
yeah, so
It
that
has
is more beneficial to him, I would think.
it it had a lot to do with his job as well, like going to France as well too. So like basically
Right.
he was speaking the Canadian French, and then when he was
Well,
speaking the
yes,
Canadian
Canadian
French,
French is very different than
yeah, from the
France. Yeah.
France's French, which is they look at that and just laugh.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Our French is considered like
yeah,
slang.
yes.
It's considered slang. It's not proper French.
What is that, brother?
Yeah, it's not proper French at all.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so that's I don't know why that's like it's that way. I don't know
It's
where
yeah,
that started and why that became
a
you
thing.
know
Yeah.
more of like a slang French. Like I don't
Hmm.
understand how that happened in history, but um yeah, that's the thing. It's very different, which that's the thing. Like I mean, I'm very curious. Like, probably French is one of those languages that I'm fascinated by, just in the sense of how it's spoken in different countries. Because you also have Haiti, you have parts of Africa that speak French as their main language, and even I think there's a show I was watching, for anyone who watches TLC, Love in Translation, and there was a woman who was from Morocco who spoke French, and her French was so different than the French we speak here or the French they speak in France. It's so different. And I'm just like, how? Like, I'm so, this is one of those things I'm very intrigued by. But the same thing with Spanish. The same thing with Spanish. I'm going off my tangent here, but it's the same thing with Spanish.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
very different depending on the country you're in. Like,
Yeah. There's different. I didn't know there was different type of Spanish. I think
mhm.
is there like American Spanish and Canadian Spanish?
No, 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 no. Well, first of all, a Canadian Spanish is not a thing. Spanish is not a language here. It's
Okay.
official language here, so
Okay.
that's not a thing. Um, but it's different. Like I don't know if Spanish is different in Mexico versus other places, but I know for a fact,
Hmm.
like Peru, their Spanish is very different than everyone else. I
Hmm.
think Mexico has variations of that. And then if you even look at like Portuguese, for example, it's very similar to Spanish, but again,
Right.
it's its own language, but it's very similar to Spanish as well.
Hmm.
But there is another country that it's also very different or Spanish versus other Spanish speaking
Hmm.
countries. But it's it's different depending on where you are. And even like in my line of work, when you need to hire an interpreter, and I say, okay, I need an Iranian interpreter. And then you get schooled on the fact of, okay, so where's the person because the dialect is very different depending on where you're from. And I'm like, oh, okay. Arabic, same thing. The dialect is very different depending on where you're from. So it's just interesting to me. But I think because I think French is obviously a language I learned throughout my life, that I'm just so intrigued by how different it is in other countries. It's fascinating.
Well, we're going really off
We
topic,
are.
but there are 21 uh Spanish speaking countries. So like,
Oh yeah.
so
That's not surprising to me.
yeah,
I don't need to know that. I'm not talking. I know that.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
Part of taking Spanish classes, knowing about different countries. So
Mm,
that's not it. But um, it's just the differences in the dialect. That's
right.
very interesting. And of course, like Africa has millions of different languages all
Mm,
in together. But
mm,
the the French in certain countries in Africa or anywhere else is just very different depending on where you're from. So it's very, because again, Morocco is in Africa. It's very different than someone who might be from Cameroon, for example. So it's
mm.
just, very different. But anyways,
Yeah,
let's get back to Canada.
yeah. Come back to Canada.
Let's go back to Canada.
Yeah. Traveling
Um,
back.
so okay, so the French character in Quebec is also reflected in differences in religion, architecture, and schooling. Elsewhere in Canada, French influence is less apparent, very true, confined largely to the dual use of French and English for place names, product labels, and road signs, which again, very, very true. Throws me off when I see like stop signs in like Quebec and it's like arrête, and I'm like, oh yeah, I guess it wouldn't say stop in Quebec, would it? But anyways,
Mhm.
um, the French and British influences are supplemented by the cultures of the country's Native Americans, which we're going to say Native Canadians. Um, so in Canada, often collectively called the First Nations and Inuit peoples, the former being far greater in number than the latter, enjoying semi autonomous status in Canada's newest territory. None of it. In
Mm.
addition, the growing number of immigrants from other European countries, Southeast Asia, and Latin America has made Canada even more broadly multicultural. Canada has been an influential member of the Commonwealth and has played a leading role in the organization of French-speaking countries known as La Francophonie. Hopefully
Hmm.
I said that right. It was a founding member of the United Nations and has been active in a number of major UN agencies and other worldwide operations. So in
Right.
1989, Canada joined the Organization of American States and signed a free trade agreement with the United States. A pact
Mhm.
that was superseded in 1992 by the North American Free Trade Agreement, which
Mhm.
also includes Mexico. So we have all of North America coming together. It's great.
Right.
Um, so a founding member since 1961 of the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. So this was since 1961. Canada is also a member of the Group of Seven, G7, which includes the world's 7 largest industrial democracies. And as the Group of 8, G8, had included Russia until it was indefinitely suspended from membership in 2014 because there
Hmm.
were some issues, but we won't get into that.
Okay.
The national capital is Ottawa, of course.
Yeah.
For I'm sure my Canadians listeners probably obviously know this,
Mhm.
but in case
Mhm.
for anyone else who doesn't know this,
Yep.
Canada's fourth largest city is Ottawa.
Mhm.
It lies some 250 miles for Americans, 400 kilometers for us over here in Canada,
Mhm.
northeast of Toronto, and is 125 miles or 200 kilometers west of Montreal, respectively Canada's first and second cities in terms of population and economics. So that's Toronto, Montreal,
Mhm.
cultural and educational importance. So even from like where we currently reside, like how it's about 4 hours away from us. So if
Right.
we include the distance from here to Toronto, it's about a 5 hour drive, roughly 5 to 6 hour
Mm.
drive.
Okay.
Um, so the third largest city is Vancouver, a center for trade with the Pacific Rim countries and the principal western gateway to Canada's
Mm-hmm.
developing interior. Other major metropolitan areas also include Calgary, Edmonton, which is in
Mm-hmm.
Alberta, Quebec
Mm-hmm.
City, which is
Yeah.
obviously in Quebec, and Winnipeg, which is in Manitoba.
Mm.
Canada's total land area also includes thousands of adjacent islands. Notably, one of those is Newfoundland in the
Right.
east, and those of the Arctic archipelago in the north. I don't even know what that is. Canada is bounded by the Arctic Ocean to the north,
Mm-hmm.
Greenland, which is a self-governing part of the Danish kingdom, so it has nothing to do with us, to
Mm-hmm.
the northeast, the Atlantic Ocean to the east, 12
Mm-hmm.
states of the United States to the south, and the Pacific Ocean and the U.S. state of Alaska to the west. In
Right.
addition, tiny St. Perry and Miquelon, um,
Mm-hmm.
which is a territory of France, lies off Newfoundland. I did not know that, but that's interesting. So, the combination of physical geography and discontinuous settlement has led to a strong sense of regionalism in Canada, and popular regional terms often overlap. So the Atlantic provinces include all of the Appalachian, I don't care how you want to say it, everyone says it differently, region, except the Quebec portion. So if the province of Newfoundland and Labrador is excluded, the three remaining East Coast provinces are called the Maritime Provinces or the
Mm-hmm.
Maritimes. Quebec and Ontario are usually referred to separately, but sometimes together as Central Canada. So we are technically Central Canada, but yeah. The West usually means all four provinces west of Ontario. So that's Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, BC.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's basically what that is. And the other three collectively as the prairie provinces or the prairies. So that would be Saskatchewan. Is it Manitoba part of it? I don't know, but I know Saskatchewan definitely is. Um, Yukon and the Northwest Territories and Nunavut are referred to as the North, but they're also our territories. That's that's what
Mm.
they are. They're
What do you?
not considered provinces, they're territories.
Mm.
Um, I don't know. I don't know what constitutes them being called territories, but that
Mm-hmm.
is something I don't remember from school. But that's what's up there.
Right.
So we're
Okay.
gonna quickly talk about some land, just because it is kind of it's important to Canadian history, and it's something that we all definitely learned in school here in Canada. So, by far the largest of Canada's physiographic regions is the Canadian Shield, sometimes also referred to as the Precambrian Shield. Never heard
Mm-hmm.
that term before, but it occupies about half of the total area of the country and is centered on the Hudson Bay. The shield consists of some of the world's oldest rocks, which were folded by mountain building movements and cut down by erosion until the area was reduced almost to a plain. So PLAIN, plain. And it was warped and folded in places, so parts of it now stand much higher than others, especially around its outer edges. So in the north, the rim is about 7,000 feet above sea level, and fjords with walls from 2,000 to 3,000 feet.
Uh-huh.
High extend many miles into the mountain masses, so it's huge. Um, there's also
It is.
there's also the Labrador Highlands, including Torngate,
Mm-hmm.
Comajet, and Kiklapate Mountains things I never
Mm,
learned in school, but that's what those are. Lies south of the Hudson Strait,
mhm,
along the north shore of St. Lawrence River, which is in Quebec. The Shield Rim is a 2,000-foot escarpment, and the Laurentide Scarp. There's so many different names, but it's cool. The rim is it's almost imperceptible in southern Ontario, but in northern Ontario, it rises again to almost 1,500 feet. So if you are in Ontario, close to the north, we're not, but
mhm.
you can go take a look at that if you want. Um, so it's above the northern shore of the Lake Superior, which is one of the well, I think we do talk about Lake Superior, but we'll get to it. So from
Mhm.
Manitoba northwestward, the Shield Edge is marked by a large number of lakes. I think this is where I talk about the lakes. So the Great Lakes are huge for us here. Of course, some of the Great Lakes
Yeah.
also are in the States as well. Um, Depending on where you are, like Ontario, you can see from New York, for example. So it's huge. So the Great Lakes, in particular the St. Lawrence region, comprises the peninsula of southern Ontario, bounded by the Canadian Shield, and Lakes Huron, Erie, and Ontario. It extends along the St. Lawrence River to the Atlantic Ocean. The region is fairly small in area, is nevertheless important for its high agricultural productivity, intensive industrialization, and high degree of urbanization. The biggest thing that we need to remember about the Great Lakes is it's the hugest percentage of fresh water, and that is where our fresh water comes from. So
Mm.
it's very important.
So Michigan, like that's like close to America, right? Or is it in
It
America?
is in America. The
Okay.
Great Lakes is, okay, give me that, Ontario, Huron, Superior,
Mhm.
Erie.
Ontario. Oh, yeah. Okay.
I said Ontario already. That's the first one I
Yeah,
said.
yeah, 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 you
I can't
said
remember
that.
the fifth one now. Maybe it's Michigan.
Yeah, Superior, Michigan, Huron, yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Michigan is also in the States. It stretches into the States. So does
Oh,
Ontario.
okay.
I
Yeah.
believe Superior does too. I don't think Erie does, but I might be
Mm.
wrong with that. But most of the Great Lakes stretch into the States too. It's not just
Mm.
us.
Okay.
Um, so with less than 1% of the world's population, Canada has some 1/7 of the world's supply of accessible fresh water, as I just mentioned. Much of this water is stored in lakes and wetlands that cover about 1/5 of Canada's total area. The Great Lakes and the world's largest surface of fresh water, as I mentioned, as we kind of talked through, is shared with the United States and form part of the international border. So other large lakes also include Great Bear and Great Slave Lakes. I hate that name. Can we change it?
Yeah, change that.
Um, yeah, I don't like that name at all.
That's a bad name.
I mean, I don't.
They can change that because they have changed cities or names and street names before.
Yeah, I think I don't think Canada. I mean, we definitely have a slave trade here too, but
Mm.
we we were kind of one of the countries that was solace for slaves. So I don't like that name.
Right.
But anyways, maybe there's more to it than what I'm thinking. But anyways,
Mhm.
um, so that those lakes are in the Northwest Territories, and the lakes Manitoba and Winnipeg, which is obviously in Manitoba. About 3/4 of Canada's land area is drained by rivers flowing into the Arctic Ocean and Hudson and James Bays. The Arctic drainage basin is dominated by the Mackenzie River, which is Canada's longest river, which flows 2,635 miles
Mhm.
from its source to its mouth. So, with its many tributaries, it drains 690,000 square miles.
Right.
That's insane. The St. Lawrence is the largest river flowing into the Atlantic Ocean. Its drainage basin includes the Great Lakes, forming an inland navigable waterway extending about 2,340 miles into the heart of the continent. So that's pretty crazy. Let's talk about weather here in Canada because, again, I think Americans have misconstrued thoughts of what the weather is like here in Canada. I mean, there's definitely places that are like you need a snowshoe or something, but that's not every province.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. A lot of Americans think like we're cold and
like all year
basically
round, they're shocked that we have summers.
we don't have summers.
Yeah,
We're in igloos, basically.
basically.
We
And
don't
I
have,
mean, British Columbia has some of the most mildest winters, I just as a thought, but anyway, Canada's snowfall does not follow the same pattern as rainfall. In the north and the interior plains, snowfall is light because of the cold air is very dry. So the drier the snow is, or the drier the temperatures are, or sorry, the colder the temperatures are, the drier the snow is, which makes it very easy to shovel because it's light.
yeah.
So the snow is hard and dry. It falls in small amounts and is packed down by the constant wind. In the east and west coasts are areas of lighter snowfall because the ocean usually makes the air too warm for large quantities of snow to fall. However, you might also get a lake, well, not necessarily lake effect, that's the wrong term to use, but I guess ocean effect?
Yeah, I feel like when you go to Ottawa, it's a lot colder when you're in.
Oh,
It's a
Ottawa's
lot.
colder.
Yeah,
Ottawa's
it's a lot
colder
colder.
in any time of the year. Like even like when
Yeah,
I went to Ottawa back when I was
yeah,
13, 14, it was in May. And
yeah.
the temperatures were nicer by us. And
Mhm.
as soon as we got into Ottawa, it's like freezing cold.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I'm like when you're here, like in around like Toronto, it's like warm. Like
It's
the
warmer
temperature's a
in
lot warm.
comparison.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
you go in Ottawa. Oh my
it's
God.
freezing. I don't know why.
Ottawa?
I don't know why. It's the
Yeah.
craziest thing.
Maybe because it's
Um,
close to a lake or something, or
but we're
it's.
close to a lake.
Oh, that's true.
Exactly.
That's true.
I'm like 10 minutes away from the lake.
Yeah.
So that's not it.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know why it is. But anyways,
Yeah.
um the depth of snow increases inland from each coast, reaching maximums of about, for everybody, 240 inches. The fuck? I don't want to live there. I'm just telling you that right now. But
Mhm.
this is in the Rocky Mountains and on the shores of the Gulf of St. Lawrence. So farther inland, a lack of moisture brings the depth of snow down again.
Mhm.
So that's what happens. Freezing precipitation may occur during the colder months. So that's kind of like January, February are the worst. That's when it's the coldest.
Mhm.
That's when the wind hurts your face sometimes. That's when the cold really sets in.
Oh yeah. I
Um,
I had those a lot. Like when it hits your face,
well, remember we
and
had the
then.
polar vortex like 10 years ago. It was the worst. It
Oh
was the
yeah.
worst. I remember that being my ex-husband's first winter in Canada. And I'm just
Mhm.
like, it's not usually like this. I swear to God, it's not usually like this. Because it was so cold. But anyways.
What's worse when it hits your face or when it hits your fingers? Like when you have like frostbite.
Well, I've never had frostbite.
Mm.
But for me, I would probably say my face because I usually will have my hands in my pockets or I'll have gloves on, because especially if you're standing waiting for a train, because we're higher up, it's the cold hits different when you're waiting on a platform for a train to show up. It just hits different. So you have to be bundled. So usually my face is the thing that's exposed. But anyway,
Yeah.
so where was I? So occasionally disrupting transportation, true, and communication, so true. We've had ice storms, yeah. That was fun.
Yeah. The
um,
one in like the blackout. in the winter time. 20 it was it 2013?
No. Oh, yes. Yes, it was. Because I remember, again, that was when my ex was here. And I remember texting him and saying, "Do you have power?"
Yeah.
My
That
grandparents
was
seemed to be the only people who had power. And like
oh
everyone was going to my grandparents.
yeah, that
It
was
was horror.
terrible.
It was
That was
horrific.
terrible. Including it was very cold and
It was freezing. And that was
oh I would
December.
yeah,
That was in December.
I would rather have that in the summer, the blackout in the summer than the winter. That
We
is
did,
the
we,
worst.
the thing is, like, either way, especially if you have pets, either way, it's like not great because we didn't have a bird during that, but we did. I think my cousin did have a bird during the ice storm that caused the blackout, and it was like I might go home to a dead bird because that's either way. It's not great whether they're really good. They're either going to be hot, or they're going to be really cold.
Mhm.
When we had the blackout that not only affected us but also affected parts of New York too,
Oh yeah.
and that was like 20 years ago. And at least, thank the Lord, it wasn't brutally hot. But that
Mm.
can also become a problem because my brother was a baby when that happened, right?
Mm.
So like either way, like it's not great to be overheated. It's not great to be really cold.
Oh yeah. And
So,
especially when you have things in the freezer, you have to throw
oh,
away
you
that.
throw it all away. Yeah, it's done
Yeah.
for. It's done
Yeah.
for.
And then to buy it, geez, the government should give us like some kind of rebate.
And it's not their fault though that it happened. And it wasn't just us that it got affected. Remember? It also affected the states too. So whose
True,
fault is
true.
that? I still
Yeah,
want to know
yeah.
what the fuck happened. But anyways, it's fine.
Yeah.
Canada contains a mixture of diverse national and cultural groups. So at the time of the country's first census, which was in 1871, about half of the population was of British ancestry and nearly one third was of French ancestry. So
Mm.
since that time, the proportion of Canadians of British and French ancestry has dropped to about one fourth each, as fewer people have immigrated from the United Kingdom and France, and considerably more have arrived from other countries in Europe, such as, well, not such as, but Europe, as well as, Asia, Africa, and Latin America, and the Caribbean.
Mm.
Oh. So because immigrant groups have tended to settle in particular locales, they generally have retained their cultural identity. So for example, Ukrainians largely migrated to the prairie provinces where the land has climate where similar to those of Ukraine, freezing, and many
Mm.
Dutch settled on the flat, fertile farmland of southwestern Ontario, so where the land and climate were similar to those of their homeland, and many Dutch settled on the flat, fertile farmland of southwestern Ontario, where they practiced fruit and vegetable growing as they had in the Netherlands.
Mm.
Many Chinese, Portuguese, Greeks, and Italians have settled in particular sections of large cities like Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver. So, like here in Toronto, which I'm sure is similar to the other places I just mentioned, we have like Little Italy or we have Chinatown. Um, so, stuff like that. So, the mix of ethnic groups differs greatly from province to province. The proportion of people claiming ancestry from the British Isles ranges from about two-thirds in Newfoundland and Labrador to less than 5% in Quebec. The proportion of people of French descent ranges from majority in Quebec to less than 2% in Alberta, British Columbia, Newfoundland, and Labrador, the Northwest Territories, and Saskatchewan. More than one-third of Canadians identify themselves as being of mixed or multiple origins.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're very multicultural, I would say.
Yeah, but even like you as a person might just have all kinds of different things.
Hmm.
Like my family, I consider us a mutt because we have everything.
Right.
But anyway,
Yeah.
an estimated 200,000 First Nations people and Inuit were living in what is now Canada when Europeans began to settle there in the 16th century. For the next 200 years, the indigenous population would decline, largely as a result of European territorial encroachment and the diseases that the settlers brought. Y'all are coming here and making people sick. Something that still happens today.
Yeah. To the day, yeah.
However, the indigenous population increased dramatically after 1950 because of high birth rates and access to improved medical care. Some 1 million people in Canada now identify themselves as First Nations people. So that would be Métis, which is a mixed European and First Nations ancestry, or Inuit. And of this number, more than 3/5 are First Nations people. Nearly 1/3 is Métis, and most of the remainder is Inuit. So together they constitute less than 5% of Canada's total population, though Indigenous peoples constitute half the population of the Northwest Territories. So a lot of them are there, is basically what that's saying. And a considerably greater proportion of the population of none of it. So they're in the territories, but a lot of them are. The largest of the First Nations group is the Cree, which includes about 120,000 people. Yeah. So usually religion is something that I don't really like talking about. I remember telling Mikel it's a hard no, but we will talk very generally about the different religions that kind of are here in Canada. Yeah. So more than 3/4 of Canada's population claim affiliation to some degree with an organized religious faith. Most people are either Roman Catholic or Protestant. So technically, I have been baptized in the Roman Catholic Church, although I don't identify as that anymore. That is one example. The major Protestant churches are the United Church of Canada, and the Anglican Church of Canada, and the Lutheran Church. Roman Catholics constitute the largest single religious group, accounting for more than 2/5 of the population. Protestants, which is the second largest group, make up about 1/5 of the population.
Right.
In Quebec, more than 4/5 of the population is at least nominally Roman Catholic, and New Brunswick also has a Roman Catholic majority. Canada's religious composition reflects the most recent immigration trends. So in the last 2 decades of the 20th century, the numbers of Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, and Buddhists rose sharply. The numbers of Jews and adherents of the Eastern Orthodox faith also has risen, so that would kind of be certain parts of Europe, so like Ukraine, Moldova is another one. So about 1/5 of Canadians classify themselves as non-religious. So that's fine.
I've seen a research that more people are there used to be back then there used to be a lot of people who were into religion, and now there's a lot less people who are not into religion. I'm guessing people are getting like a lot smarter in terms of.
I want to say smarter. That's the wrong word to use. Be very careful what you're saying, because you might.
Oh, my bad. I might hurt
somebody.
As somebody, yeah. But I would say, I don't know what's a word for it. Find me the word for it.
I think people's views just change over time.
That's the thing. People's views, yeah.
Like, I believe in God in the way that I learned, in the general sense of how I learned anyways. but I don't believe in Catholicism and what Catholicism stands for. That's just for me. I identify as Christian, because Christian is very different, but it's, my views have changed. Some people who may have been raised in Catholicism or some other form of religion may just come out thinking, I don't believe in this anymore. It's just views change.
Mm,
It's the biggest thing.
okay.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Mm.
Or if I, said smarter, I meant in that way.
Yeah, because there's so many different other religions.
Because people could go from Christian to Catholic, or Catholic
or
to
Muslim,
Christian.
depending.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Right. So it's
I agree.
Yeah, and there's again people's views change. So that's all.
Okay.
So Canada has the longest coastline in the world. I love this.
Sorry?
Canada has the longest coastline in the entire freaking world.
Oh.
So Canada's coastline measures over 200,000 kilometers. The coastline is surrounded by 3 oceans, as we've kind of said, and makes up almost 57% of the world's total coastline. Cool. So these are some fun facts. So that's that. Canada's national animal is a beaver. I think a lot of us should know this to some extent.
Beaver, but there's also a second. Isn't there a secondary one? The moose?
No. Moose has never been. I would have understood if you said the loon, but no, the moose has never been our national animal. It's been the beaver. It's always been the beaver. But I would give you points if you said the loon. Because the loon is on our coin.
What's the loon? Is that the
bird?
Bird, yeah.
The bird, yeah. Because that's on our dollar coin. We have coins here, yeah. And that's on our coin is the loon.
I could have swear we had the moose as well.
No, I've never heard the moose before. The loon or the beaver.
We're doing research.
You do that, but the moose is not our animal. So you may be surprised to hear that the national animal is Canada, because apparently Mikel is. The beaver became the national animal of Canada in 1975, and the connection to the country dates back hundreds of years due to the link to the fur trade that the animal once had. So beavers are the largest rodent in the country, and they're so cute and can weigh up to 60 pounds and measure over 3 feet long. What?
Wait a second. There is the moose is because it has been on stamps. So here's
but that's not a national animal though.
Wait a second. The moose, along with the beaver, is one of the national animals of Canada.
Well, the beaver is too, and this is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Not the moose. Anyways.
National animals. So
what? I said animal.
We had more than one, I think.
Okay, but so does the states, but that's also varies state by state. But they still have one technically, but then they have their own animal state by state. Let me finish, please. Beaver is the countries. I don't know if the moose is varied by province to province, but anyways, so they spend their days asleep. Sounds perfect. And are known for their dam building and large teeth. They got huge teeth, which they use to fell trees. What does that mean? Anyways, the coldest ever recorded temperature in Canada, hold on to your butts, everybody, was minus 63 degrees Celsius. I would die. Is that with the wind chill? Or was that just the number? And then the wind chill was added onto it.
That's not surprising.
We have never had temperatures, at least in my life, at minus 63. We've been close, but not 63. Like maybe in the 40s, but with the wind chill. That's with the wind chill.
Like I said, I'm not surprised. It's Canada.
But I would be dead. I'm just telling you this right now. But anyways, the temperature and weather in Canada, as we've kind of talked about, are unlike any other country in the world. And due to the size, our size can vary drastically depending on where you are, which we've talked about. Average temperatures on the east and west coast sit at about 20 degrees Celsius. But temperatures can drop to huge minus numbers in the colder months of the year. So the coldest ever recorded temperature was minus 63 degrees Celsius in Snag, which is in the Yukon. So that's why I will not be going, which sits between the Northwestern Territories and Alaska. It's like right beside Alaska. So if you were to remove our lakes, and Canada would only be the 4th largest country in the world, not the 2nd. So that's huge. That puts into perspective like how huge the Great Lakes are. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty crazy. Surprise to nobody, hockey is our national sport.
Yeah,
surprise to nobody.
It is. Basketball's getting closer though.
No. Hockey is the national sport and always will be. However, I know. What I will give you, that's not going to change just because basketball is popular. Hockey is our national sport here.
It's getting there.
No, do you not know how this works? Hockey has been a national sport forever, but let me please finish my sentence.
All right.
Even though hockey is our national sport and hockey was not created here. I need to point that out. Basketball was. Mm-hmm. Basketball was created by a Canadian. How it's played anyways today was created by a Canadian. That's interesting.
Yeah, the Canadian was in America then when it was created, but
well, I don't care about that. It was created by a Canadian.
Yeah, I know.
Anyways, according to the National Sports of Canada Act, there are 2 national sports in Canada, hockey and lacrosse. Mm-hmm. Hockey is a huge sport in Canada and is enjoyed much like football and rugby in the UK, football in the States. Invented in the 1800s, hockey is often played in winter in Canada, and the players are treated like real celebrities in this country. Even if you are on the Leafs. Sorry, I had to get my throat about that. Anyways, let's move on. One of the longest highways in the world is in Canada. Interesting. This fact might not come as a surprise, maybe some, but the country is large. Canada is home to the world's longest national road, which is called the Trans-Canada Highway. Mm-hmm. The 401. Which is, we all probably been on the highway. Mm-hmm. The road is 4,860 miles long and stretches between the east and west coasts and between the Pacific and Atlantic coasts. The highway stretches from St. John to Victoria and connects the whole of Canada. That is insane. The maple leaf has been a symbol of Canada since the 1800s. So most widely associated with Canada due to it being the main feature of the flag and the Toronto Maple Leafs jersey, the maple leaf has actually been an iconic symbol of Canada since the 19th century when the leaf itself emerged as the symbol of national identity. The maple leaf was only added to the Canadian flag in 1965. Whoa, that again, not that long ago if you think about it. And was made official by a proclamation from Queen Elizabeth II, may she rest. So that is interesting. Canada is so big that it occupies 6 time zones. So Canada occupies the Pacific, Mountain, Central, Eastern, Atlantic, and Newfoundland, because Newfoundland has its own time zone. So if you're traveling around Canada, don't be surprised if the time zones change, because they do. Yeah. Me and Mikel are in the Eastern time zone. Now, you know all there is about so yeah, that's basically that fun fact. Now, we're going to do a little trivia, see if Mikel can answer some questions about Canada, see what your knowledge is. So, ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Which Canadian city is considered Hollywood North?
Let's see. Toronto.
Okay. So while you may think it's Toronto, the true answer is Vancouver.
Vancouver.
People started calling Vancouver Hollywood North in the 1970s. The city is second in TV production, very true, and third for feature film production in North America, because it is so much cheaper to film in Vancouver. Los Angeles and New York are first and second, respectively.
I'm always thinking that Vancouver is expensive over there.
It's not.
It's close to America because it's close to sea. Is it
Well,
close to Seattle?
So are we. It is close to Seattle, yes. But, you know, people, they do filming in Toronto as well. Like, for example, Suits was filmed in Toronto. But Vancouver is cheaper in comparison to other places to film.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
Like Twilight, for example, was filmed in Vancouver. I'm just saying. Well, at least some of them, not all of them, but some of them are.
Yeah.
So, second question. How many points does the maple leaf on the flag have?
How many points? As in, like, you know,
So, like, the tips.
How many points to the tip?
And no cheating.
Let's see. I'm gonna go. 12.
Very close. So the flag has 11 points.
Wow.
But here's a little bit of history on that. The Canadian flag was designed with 13 points. It was then later changed to 11 points because it was hard to see the maple leaf shape from a distance.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Next question. Which city is home to North America's largest mall?
Edmonton.
Correct. It's the home of the West Edmonton Mall. This massive shopping center is 5.3 million square feet and has an entire water park within the mall. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I heard about that a long time ago. Someone was talking about that and they said that answer. So I was like, wow. Yeah.
So next question. Which Canadian chain first opened in Hamilton in 1964? Hamilton the place, not Hamilton the play.
Okay. Rephrase that question again?
So which Canadian chain, so like a store, first opened in Hamilton in 1964?
Can I get a vowel, please?
No. Let's just say, don't think too hard.
Tim Hortons.
There you go. So yes, it's Tim Hortons. And it's, if you're here in Canada, you know how much Tim Hortons has grown. So as of 2020, the coffee chain has over 4,949 restaurants across the globe. Yay, Tim Hortons.
Yeah.
Crazy.
There's about
1,000 of them in our town. I'm kidding, but I'm not really.
Yeah. Well, pretty much. I would say that.
There's like every street has a Tim Hortons, or like 2 or 3 of them. But anyways, crazy.
And then you go to America. I'm surprised that there's some in America as well.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there is one in America. Yeah. So next question. Where is Canada's most visited national historic site?
Historic site. Let me see. Is it in Calgary?
Nope. So do you want me to tell you the answer? Or do you want to keep guessing? Okay. So in Halifax, Nova Scotia, you can visit the Halifax Citadel National Historic Site of Canada. So it was built as a military fort first, and it's now a tourist paradise. The site has a rich history and a beautiful view of the city. So with the history as well, because after all, this is Nova Scotia, you can have some lobster. So there's that too. So yeah. Next question. Which city hosts North America's largest single day parade? Bonus points if you can also guess the parade.
Single day parade.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a holiday?
It's not a holiday. Technically, it's not a holiday, but let's say it does fall during a holiday.
Okay. Don't say anything.
Don't say anymore? Okay.
I'm gonna guess it's not Caravana. It's close.
Okay.
Pride Month.
Right. So if you stuck to your first answer, you would have been right. So it is the Caravana Grand Parade in Toronto, with the parade route of 3.6 kilometers and taking over 10 hours from start to finish. It's definitely a celebration to watch out for. The parade is part of Toronto's 3-week-long Caribbean Caravana Festival. So it's a whole thing. It goes on for a while. Even the weekend, it's a big thing. The festival started in 1967 and is the biggest cultural festival in North America. So the reason why, for those who don't live here in Ontario even, or even in Canada, the reason why is that technically it's not a holiday. It's because it lands on our August day-long weekend, which is Cinco Day, I think. Which I don't understand what Cinco Day is, but anyways, Cinco Day. There we go. Next question. What is Canada's... See, I gave you this already, so let's see if you're paying attention. What is Canada's national sport? Oh, come on. You're not paying attention?
I'm going to mention it. It hurts me, but, hockey.
And lacrosse is...
Lacrosse, but lacrosse is not as popular as hockey, but
it is still a national sport. And always will be at this point. There are people who play... I need people who play lacrosse. So.
I would replace lacrosse with basketball, but that's another story. Go ahead.
That's never going to happen. Anyway.
Go ahead.
You can tell yourself that, but okay. So, which city has the most restaurants per capita in Canada?
Which city has the most
restaurants per capita in Canada?
No, not that one.
Don't be, you better not be cheating.
There's two cities that...
You got 10 seconds.
Okay. I'm going to say Toronto again.
Okay. It's not Toronto, although I was thinking the same thing you were before. It is Victoria, British Columbia. So while reports vary, most studies say Victoria leads the pack with 4.6 restaurants per 1,000 people. So runners up include Vancouver, Niagara Falls, and Montreal. Toronto's not even on that list. So, which Canadian city ranks as the most educated in the entire country?
City, right?
City.
Montreal.
So, with 1/3 of the city's adult population having a university degree, the answer is our national capital, Ottawa. But that doesn't mean it's the most intelligent city in Canada.
I'm surprised because they know French and
well, that's the whole country. But the award for the most intelligent city goes to Winnipeg in Manitoba. So, which city was home to the first North American YMCA? YMCA.
You're not talking about the unemployment office, right?
YMCA in a just generally speaking.
Generally speaking. Vancouver.
It all started in Montreal in 1851.
I said that in my last answer.
You did. So, bonus Canadian trivia fact, there are now over 1,000 YMCAs in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
What is the most purchased grocery item in Canada?
I'm thinking. I'm going to be surprised that's not maple syrup, because the maple syrup is basically the
I'm going
symbol.
to tell you right now, it's not maple syrup. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's not that.
That's a Canadian. Well, that's
Let that sink in, America. It's not maple syrup. Go ahead.
What's her beer? There we go.
Beer? Not beer. It's the Canadian classic craft dinner, which I don't particularly eat myself. But anyways, surveys show it is our nation's go-to pick when we go shopping, and it's hard to deny considering it's quick and for those who like it, tasty. If you like that, I particularly don't, but that's just me. So, what fruit does Canada export the most of?
Oof, that's kind of hard. What do I see everywhere in every grocery store?
Well, you're going to see every fruit in grocery stores.
Yeah, I know, but like, there's some, well, this one's a hard one. I'm gonna go with the banana.
The answer? Blueberries. Canada exports tens of millions of pounds of blueberries and is the world's second largest producer of the berry. In fact, blueberries account for 61.2% of our export dollars. That is insane.
Yeah, I don't even bother going to that section. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't eat blueberries. My mom does, but anyways. What is Canada's oldest city? And this predates the birth of Canada.
It's not
by a lot.
I don't think it's Toronto. I'll be surprised if it's Toronto. Okay. But I do think it's Ottawa.
Okay. So this city, which was established in 1497, St. John's, Newfoundland, is the oldest city in Canada. What? Yep. The next established city was Quebec City. That wasn't until 1608, nearly 200 years later. So,
why is a Parliament there then? So why is the Prime Minister's office? I
don't know the details surrounding that, but that's just how it is.
It should be over if.
But think of it. But actually, I would disagree with you because even in the States, the quote unquote headquarters of what was the States wasn't Washington, D.C., it was Albany, New York. And that then changed into Washington, D.C. But you know what? We don't know why that happened because nobody was in the room when it did. Let's continue. So, how many time zones, again, I gave this away to you already, does Canada have?
How many time zones? Okay, I know Vancouver has its own time zone.
No, it does not.
Really?
Vancouver does not have its own time zone. Newfoundland has its own time zone. No, I literally told you this before. Newfoundland has its own time zone. And all the other time zones, because Newfoundland has the time zone is called Newfoundland. No other place has the Newfoundland time zone. So think of it that way.
Interesting. Okay. I'll take your facts.
So how many time zones does Canada have?
Oh, you want me to go? Okay.
Yes, you haven't answered the question yet.
How many time zones? Let me see. I will say three.
Three?
Yeah.
Yep. So if everyone else was paying attention, six time zones are across Canada. Pacific, that is what Vancouver falls under.
You just said you don't have a different time. What?
Pacific is not just a time zone dedicated to Vancouver.
Right.
Newfoundland is a time zone completely dedicated to Newfoundland on its own. No other place shares that time zone. So yeah, Pacific, Mountain, Central, Eastern, Atlantic, and Newfoundland are the time zones. Which Canadian city has the most forests? Come on, this has to be easy. Come on. Come on.
It's not Toronto, is it?
Is
It's
that your final
Vancouver.
answer? Are you saying Vancouver's your final answer?
Vancouver.
Oh, is that your final answer?
Van-
Okay. Well, if Mikel stuck to his original answer,
oh my god.
Toronto with over 27.5 million visitors a year.
Okay.
Stick to your gut. So, only one province is officially bilingual. Which one is that?
Oh, that's easy.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. And what is that?
Quebec.
Yeah. So Canada is officially bilingual in a sense, but
Yeah.
most provinces are only either French or English. But New Brunswick is the only province where French and English are both official languages.
What?
Not Quebec. Quebec is primarily a French-speaking province.
I mean, but
New Brunswick is considered both.
okay. All right. All right.
How many oceans border Canada?
How many? What?
Oceans border Canada.
5.
So there are 3 oceans in total, and that is the Pacific, Atlantic, and the Arctic. Not 5.
Oh yeah, that's the lakes. My bad.
Mm-hmm. Which province is home to Canada's tallest mountain? So I'll say again, which province is home to Canada's tallest mountain?
Is it Yukon?
Very good. Mount Logan is Canada's highest peak at 5,959 meters and it stands tall in Yukon. It's also believed to have the largest base circumference in the world. The only other higher mountain in North America is Denali, which is in Alaska. This is the last question, officially.
Yeah.
80% of the world's supply of what comes from Canada? And don't think too hard.
Water?
80% of the world's supply of maple syrup comes from Canada.
Okay.
Come on.
I named that earlier. Jesus Christ. It's one of the. Okay, whatever. I did pretty with this type of class.
You did good. And you tell us how well you did with the trivia, listeners. I'll be curious to know how well you guys did. Tally it up. I didn't with Mikel, but anyways.
Yeah.
So the last thing that I'm gonna talk about is that the Sir John A. Macdonald home has just reopened actually very recently. As we're recording this, it's actually open today, and we're recording this on May 18th. So by the time you hear this, it's been open for a couple of months. So I didn't even know that we had this type of situation, that you could go to John A. Macdonald's home. I didn't know that. Why didn't we do that? So I go to anyways, that is now open. So just a little bit of the history with why it was closed down to begin with, potential changes that they made with the tour of the home. So currently, if you go into the home, above the bed of the main room where Sir John A. Macdonald would have potentially slept. There's now a screen playing a video where Indigenous elders share teachings and speak about their hopes for the future. So, the Bellevue home, which is where Sir John A. Macdonald lived, is located in Kingston, Ontario, and it symbolizes the balance that the creators of the National Historic Site have tried to strike, which is the reconciling the role of Canada's first Prime Minister with the present and ensuring previously silenced communities have a voice. So I can't say I didn't. I didn't know that Sir John A. Macdonald was polarizing. I just didn't realize why. I thought he was polarizing because he was a drunk. Apparently that's not particularly the reason that's happened. But so if you want a little bit of a history on the home and everything, him and his family briefly lived in this house from 1848 to 1849, so very short period of time. The towering white and green building is actually a very cute house. It's cited as an example of the Italian villa architecture and has welcomed tourists for decades. Bellevue closed to the public in 2018 to undergo repairs. So now 6 years later, it's set to reopen its doors during a ceremony which happened on May 18th. So as we're recording this, happened this morning. So that's what they did. So the site has traditionally been a celebration of Macdonald's accomplishments as the father of Confederation and Prime Minister for 19 years. Yep. So those elements are still present. There's a detailed timeline of his political life, which was 20-year-long life, along with a glass of whiskey, which he probably loved to drink. As I just mentioned, he was known to be a drunk. An elegant outfit is also on display, which kind of signifies his reputation as being a snappy dresser. I mean, yeah, sure. For the time. I was just for the time. But there's also elements showing a deeper understanding of the impacts of his decisions, which I think was the main purpose of redoing the home and making sure that all voices are being heard, in particular the Indigenous people. So this particular quote I'm about to say was said by Hugh Ostrom, who is the National Historic Site Superintendent with Parks Canada. So he says, quote, "There are people that are likely concerned that we are erasing the history, somehow changing the history of McDonald's, and we don't think of it that way, because ultimately those same stories are still part of the tapestry of what's shared here." He went on to say, "It's not an eraser or change, it's simply adding layers on complexity to the story." So apparently, I guess with things, I think I don't want to come across sounding stupid or insensitive, but we do have to remember that times were very different back in the late 1800s, and that what was quote unquote acceptable then is just not acceptable now. And we learn from those things. But I definitely disagree with what I'm about to say next. I don't think that this is the way to get the message across. But this is what was been apparently happening. I had no clue about this. Statues of MacDonald were being vandalized or toppled over, and his name had actually been stripped from public buildings and roadways. Though I understand why, we have to remember that he came from a very different time. And again, what was acceptable then, and not just in Canada, but in many other countries, was acceptable then, and it's not acceptable now. But we have to kind of make sure, and this is with everything, not just politics, we have to kind of look at things through a lens of that time, learn from those things, and apply the differences accordingly to today. That's how it should be done. Personally, for me, I just don't think vandalizing, unless it's a Confederate soldier. I'm okay with that
Mhm.
because that's
Yeah.
different. But something
I've seen,
like
yeah, I've seen
the
some.
prime minister, like I don't know about that.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, the prime minister. No, don't do that.
Yeah.
I don't. I don't get how so much people have so much hate for like even the previous prime ministers. Like it's crazy. Like just because you don't agree with somebody's
Mm-hmm.
um views or or
And that's the thing, we're not always all going to agree.
yeah.
I mean, there are some people who should not be in power. In particular, thinking about an Oompa Loompa who's on trial right now. But we kind of look at like Stephen Harper, for example, who would have been the previous prime minister before Trudeau. And it's like Stephen Harper was not exactly an accepted prime minister. He definitely had people who did not like him. But we're really missing him now, aren't we? Because of the many changes that have been implemented since Trudeau has been in office. We're
Yeah.
really missing him, aren't we? I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I'm just stating facts. Because we weren't being carbon taxed with Harper in place. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. We weren't having certain things being taken away from us that we could um, put on our income tax returns.
Mhm.
Thanks to Trudeau, I can't claim my transportation anymore. So that's,
I
lesser. Who's the worst person? Who's the
I saw
lesser of all the evil, right?
yeah, I saw that a couple years ago that you could claim for your transit
You
and
can't anymore. It's
you
been,
can't anymore.
no, you
Yeah.
haven't been able to since
I think
about 2015, 2016. Like
mm,
I think 2015 was the last year you could claim
yeah.
all of your transportation. And then in 2016, you could claim partial transportation. But after that, you haven't been able to claim transportation. And it's frustrating. I mean, now
Yeah.
it's not so bad because I'm only going into work 2 days a week.
Mhm.
But before, when I'm spending thousands of dollars on transportation, it's
Mhm.
frustrating.
Maybe when he's out of office, maybe that will probably change back, you know?
Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. Um, that's the other issue though, is we're not like in the States where someone only is allowed 2 terms.
Mhm.
They are allowed to be in office for as long as they want. For as long as they want.
Right.
So
Right. Is that go with other like prime ministers in other countries, or is it just like us?
I can't remember what what England does, for example. I'm not sure if it's similar to us or if they have terms and they only have a certain amount of terms that they can do. I feel like it's similar, real similar to them. Because again, we do a lot of the similar things that they do. I just
Hmm.
think that, well, no, it can't be that they only have 2 terms. They definitely can go for as long as they want to. Because if I think about, oh, fuck, what's his name? The one of the most Churchill. He was prime minister for years. I mean, he started being prime minister when Queen Elizabeth's father was still king, and he was a part of her being queen for a good, I would, I'm gonna guess here about 10 to 15 years. It's been a minute since I watched the first season of The Crown, but he
Right.
was a part of her becoming queen initially for many, many years. He was in office for many years. So I think since Churchill, I don't think there's been a lot of people who have done multiple terms. I think very
Hmm.
few have done multiple terms. Um, but that's just my limited knowledge. But it's not like, again, the States only has 2 terms and that's it, 8 years and that's it. That is not the case for us. And with him being so young, Trudeau being so young, God knows how
Hmm.
long we're stuck with him.
I think people are getting to. I'm not saying about the guys who have the truckers, and the guys who have like the the Trump that have like the FU Trudeaus are going to vote
Like
against him.
the
But I think
right
people
warriors. Yeah.
yeah, 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 Trudeau warriors. Just saying that. But I don't. Well, people are pretty much upset with him this time around versus the other time around. Um, I I think, and this is my opinion, it's going to be changed by 2025, in my opinion.
We'll see. Because again, I mean, I'll admit I haven't voted many times, and the time I've been able to vote, I voted a few times. And the issue here with we vote based on who the
Mm-hmm.
it's not the mayor, it go based. I think it's a councilor, and the councilor that we've had here in Ajax,
Right.
Mark Holland, he's been in office for years and he's liked here. And you go based on the person you have representing your town or city. And he's a liberal. So even though I may not necessarily want to vote for Trudeau, who is also
Mm-hmm.
a liberal, but I may want to vote for Mark Holland because he is liberal, that's my vote. My vote is based on who I want to have in our town.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and Mark, like I said, Mark Holland, he's been since even before I was in college, and I've been out of college now for almost, Jesus, 12 years. Oh, I got shivers. Um, I actually met Mark Holland. He, seemed nice enough, and
Right.
like that's who I would prefer to have in Ajax. And unfortunately, that also means I'm voting for Trudeau,
Mm-hmm.
even though I may not want to.
Yeah.
Not that the last election that we had, there was really no one else I wanted either.
Yeah.
I don't care for
Well,
Andrea, or we're going into politics here now.
yeah. Yeah.
You know what I
Well,
mean?
deals with Canada. Well, it's about Canada, so it falls in the topics.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So
mean, and then there is I can't remember his first name.
Pierre or
Singh.
something. Pierre.
No, no, no. Andrea Horhath is NDP. I think she's
Yeah.
NDP, or she
Yeah.
NDP, or she's NDP, I
Yeah.
believe. And then I'm talking. I can't remember his first name, but Singh, I think is his last name.
Jeremy,
He's in Brampton.
Jeremy Singh or
Not
something.
Jeremy Singh. No, 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 no. He's definitely it's more ethnic name he has. Um, but he's in Brampton, and I actually like him. But even if I were to vote for him,
Just
I think
Jagmeet Singh. Yeah.
yes, he. I mean, initially I wasn't quite with everything he stood for, but I think he's definitely grown on me over the years.
Mm-hmm.
But I think again, when we had a conversation like this actually before, it's like I don't know if we'll ever see him in office because of his religion, which is which is
Mm.
absolutely insane to me. So, and again, I think Trudeau wins based on the name. So I don't know.
Mm. You don't think a conservative will be back in office again?
Who?
Pierre, like is Pierre?
I don't know who that. I don't even know who's the
Yeah,
head
that's
of
it.
the Conservative Party anymore.
He is the leader of the Conservative
Okay,
Party.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I mean, I'm sure there will definitely be a time because here's the thing: NDP never happening. They're never going to be in office. At least now, at least in the next, I would say, 20-ish
Yeah.
years, I don't see
So
them being in office.
so
It's usually liberal or conservatives, but
mhm.
I don't know.
So is it true that liberals like to spend and conservatives like to be cheap, and then the NDP likes to tax?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I really don't know.
All right. Okay.
Um,
But yeah.
I mean, that can't be fully correct because the liberals are taxing us. So I'm sure
Yeah.
they like to tax us too, you
Mm.
know?
Okay. Um. And for like the I'm gonna say this, like I talked about this like a little bit, like 2 minutes ago. For the people who really disrespect, Justin Trudeau and etc., like, stop it. Like the guys who put like the FU on their trucks, the guys who like put their FUs on the flag. I feel like that's really disgusting in my opinion. You waste all that energy to disrespect somebody that you don't even know who he is,
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
I I I understand.
mm,
I 100% understand. You don't like him, but don't disrespect him.
and again, here's the other thing I'll say too, just to kind of like the reasons that they're hating on Trudeau is very different than maybe others, but
Yeah,
Trudeau has definitely made some decisions in life that
yeah, yeah.
is
I understand.
problematic,
Yeah.
um, even before he was prime minister.
Hmm.
But it's, you know, he's not horrible.
Yeah.
His response to COVID was, under the circumstances, decent enough.
Yeah.
Um, Even Doug Ford, his response to COVID was pretty amazing, actually, in comparison to everything else he's done. But that's the one thing I'll give him is he responded very quickly and implemented what needed to be implemented very quickly.
Hmm.
But, you know, you have to give them the triumphs that they deserve in times
Right.
and then fault them for the things that they do. But again,
Yeah.
I think Canadians are just also very angry right now
Yeah, I
with the
know.
many things that we're like my mom has said, like groceries
I,
are expensive and
I,
our salaries aren't reflecting that change and
yeah,
it's frustrating.
I understand, but like, I feel like people cross the line. They go over that line, and it turns out to be extremely disrespectful.
Yeah.
Right.
But that
I,
happens everywhere. It's not
yeah, I
just
know.
here.
I know. I know.
And you're not gonna change them
I
any
know.
more than they could change.
I'm not.
No, no, I know, but I'm just trying to say, like, you're not gonna change their views and their decisions to do things any more than they could do to us. So it's we can speak till the cows come home about how people need to be better and how they address political situations. But that's just never it's never gonna change.
Mm.
Politics is such a polarizing topic for people.
Yeah.
So it's never really gonna really change.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel like that's gonna happen like in the future for this next prime minister if Justin Trudeau's gonna no longer be in office. So
oh,
it's
prime
not just
ministers have been
yeah this is
polarizing
yeah
conversation long before Trudeau,
yeah
even his
yeah
father, even before
hmm
him,
hmm
so it's from my memory, the first prime minister of my life that I remember.
right
Christian had his own situation.
hmm
Harper has had his own situation. I think Harper was after Christian. So it's every prime minister has had their fair share of hatred. Trudeau is having it now. Pierre Trudeau had it too. Pearson once had it. So
hmm
it's just
You think Stephen Harper had it as well
of course I
or
said that already. I said
yeah
that already. It's one of the
yeah
first ones I said. But yeah,
yeah
like it's just how it is. It's never
yeah
gonna change really.
no no uh, I don't know it's gotten to a point it's ridiculous so I don't know.
I get it.
It's that type of energy. Like
But
I
if
have
you
this.
think it's ridiculous here,
Yeah. Yeah. No.
it
Americans.
gets
Yeah.
a lot worse in America, especially
Yeah. Yeah.
during election year, which they're currently dealing with. So
I feel. Actually, I kind of feel bad for them.
I feel bad for them, but I also feel the terror doesn't just stop with that. I am very, very nervous. Um, and I'm a Canadian who isn't going to be as directly affected, but I'm very, very nervous about who is going to be elected in the presidential election. It's very nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it's
because,
very nerve-wracking because
I mean, he's in trial right now, but if that, I mean, I know he was doing everything he could to prolong that trial, and it didn't work in his favor, so that's great to see. But it's if that trial doesn't heed a result that stops him from running in the presidential election, we're screwed. We're all screwed. All of us, not just the states. We're all screwed.
Anything that happens in America
affects us.
Yeah.
Yep. Always
Canada.
does.
Yep.
Okay. And Mexico. It doesn't just end there too. It also affects Mexico too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically, because we kind of ran a little long here with the conversation on politics, but basically with the Bellevue home in Kingston, the main focus is that they're just trying to make sure that the Indigenous voice is being heard, because at the end of the day, it was the Indigenous people who seem to have been directly affected by John A. Macdonald and the decisions that were made then, and it's still being felt today. So I think that's the main thing with the changes that they've made in this home, which I mean, I'm all for sure. When you have people like John A. Macdonald or the equivalent of that, George Washington in the States, and you definitely award their triumphs, because there were triumphs for both of them, and as being the first leaders of their respective countries. But then there's also the bad. So at least, we're trying to do our part to make sure that we are shedding light on the voices that need to be heard. And yeah. But that's Canada.
That's Canada.
Yay.
And we're proud to be here.
Yeah. And I'm proud to be a Canadian. I know it's America, but anyways, they did have a Canadian one song though. Because it was like a mostly Canadian song. And it was similar. It was like proud to be Canadian. Like, oh, thank God I'm Canadian or something like that. I just can't remember that song. Because I loved that song when I was a kid. It was like a commercial.
Was it?
No. What are you talking about? That's a scary movie.
Oh, okay. Wasn't that a beer commercial too?
Yes, they did do a commercial like that too, but it wasn't that. It was a Molson Canadian song, and it was like "Thank God I'm Canadian" or something like that. But it was like a commercial. If I can find it, I'll put it at the end of the episode, because it was one of my favorite commercials as a kid. But for the life of me, I can't even remember the tune of it now. But it was a fun commercial, and I would sing it all the time. But anyways, if I can find it all, I know it's Molson. That's all I remember.
Just sing a short version of our national anthem. Oh, Canada,
our home and native land.
Yeah.
True. And if you wanna switch it up, you can do the French version, which I never can remember anymore. Canada. Yeah, that's about it. Like I used to know it.
Yeah. I don't remember it. I'm sorry. I
actually used to prefer the French version over the Canadian version, and now I can't remember it.
I don't feel disrespectful.
Oh God, I'm so sorry, everybody. It's bothering me though, because
yeah.
But again, give me some grace. I honestly have not heard the French Canadian anthem since high school. So, and that was a long time ago as well. So,
did we sing the English and the French version?
Yeah, they would do both. They do both.
Infused with the English version.
No. They would do separate ones. They always do separate ones.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes they would kind of go like week by week or something like that. Like 1 week they'll just do the English version, next week they'll do the French version. Like they would go back and forth or whatever. Yeah. There's a lot of different things they play on the freaking PA system.
The PA system, yeah.
Jeez. And when
Yeah.
they would play the Hawaiian version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Hmm.
I don't know why they did that.
Did they
But anyways,
ever did they ever play the American anthem right after that or no?
no, 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 no,
Oh,
no,
okay.
because they were not
Okay.
American.
Yeah, okay.
They
Yeah, I know.
would
I
like
understand. Yeah.
if you went to like the air show, because I've been to the air show, and you
Yeah.
can go to Ontario Place for that. They would play both anthems.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. They probably do in certain games too, depending. Like if you're playing
Mm.
someone in like an American team, they probably do it there
Oh
too.
yeah, sports. Yeah, sports.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
events like that, but in school, no, they
Okay.
just do our anthem.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. That's our Canada episode.
Yeah, maybe I'll find the Canadian anthem and I can kind of put it in the beginning of the episode. You may
Yeah.
or may not have already heard the anthem at the beginning.
Yeah.
So
Maybe
yeah,
is that copyrighted or is it just
if you just play a piece of it, I'm sure it's fine.
yeah? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I think it's copyrighted. But then again, I just found out that the happy birthday song is just recently become free.
Mm,
So I'm like,
interesting.
what? So anyway.
So this ends our Canada episode 39 of the Next Tape podcast. The Next Tape podcast is available now on all podcast platforms. We also have a website called solo.to/next tape podcast. Where else are we at, Tanika?
We are also on Facebook and Instagram at Next Take Podcast and Twitter and TikTok at Next Take Pod.
Okay, you can contact us on our email at mikeltanika@gmail.com. That is mikeltanika@gmail.com. So we just talked about Canada, Canada in general, trivia, a little trivia there.
We did the trivia,
Um,
yeah. We
and
did
we
a little
talked,
history
yeah,
or a
history,
what makes
little,
Canada Canada.
little politics,
Conversation there
yeah,
at the end. Yeah.
towards the end.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's about it. Um, anything else you want to say, Tanika?
Um, Not really. Besides,
Oh,
I am happy
oh,
my grandparents moved to Canada.
true.
That's I wouldn't be here otherwise.
Also, I'm happy that my mom traveled from Jamaica to Canada to live here. So I'm very happy. I'm very grateful for that. So
Yeah.
me and my brother can, live here and thrive and be successful in this country. So, yeah, as well as chill on the fireworks in Canada.
Chill on the what?
Fireworks. I remember all the fireworks.
Well,
Did you
even the
see?
weekend that we're currently recording this,
Yeah,
because it's
yeah.
Victoria Day long weekend right now, and it's still in May, so it's
Fireworks. I forgot to mention that
yeah.
the fireworks. I remember saw a clip of a kid putting fireworks on the TTC bus.
Oh
Did you see?
yes,
Oh my God.
that
It might
wasn't
get
that long ago actually, if I remember correctly.
yeah. It might
But
get might get that ridiculous because I remember so many people like I used to celebrate Canada a lot
mhm,
when I was like younger, and I so many people used to play with fireworks and get crazy with it. Like even after the day of fireworks, like 2 days, I'm like after the day of Canada Day,
mhm.
2 days later,
I'm
they're
actually
still playing
surprised that
fireworks.
there's been no fireworks yet. This for at least in my area. um, for Victoria Day long weekend yet. We're on
I heard
Saturday,
one.
and I haven't heard a single firework yet.
I heard a couple.
Okay. Yeah, for me, I haven't heard anything, which is completely unusual because
Yeah,
usually the fireworks go for the entire weekend, and that's usually what happens with Canada Day as well. And again, like this is the time of
yeah,
year, especially here in Canada,
yeah.
where we have like this is Victoria Day long weekend is the weekend that kicks off all the long weekends over the summer. So it's, we have this one, then we have Canada Day long weekend, we have um Simcoe Day long weekend, the August long weekend, and then we also then have Labor Day, and then it's Thanksgiving and then Christmas. You well, but like that's kind
I
of
have never heard any fireworks during. Is it Christmas? And
well, no, not Christmas, no, but hear fireworks during Christmas, but or even Thanksgiving. Although I think I did hear fireworks when like last Thanksgiving, which I'm like, what?
why?
That's what I'm saying. But usually the fireworks tend to be from the May long weekend until
Yeah. To,
Labor Day.
yeah. That's when. Yeah. That's when it happens. But yeah, be safe with the fireworks, please.
Yes.
You don't want
And
anybody
that's
to
in all
come in.
things, not just even fireworks. Like if anyone's doing any baby reveals, please
Yeah.
be careful with the baby reveals. I'm sure we've been told this many times, but just be careful. Be careful with fire.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. That's right. Okay, so we're about to end this episode. So I'm
Yep.
Mikel, and
And I'm Tanyka.
we are out until next week. Happy Canada Day, everybody. Peace.
Bye.